Play ball.
How you doing, baseball fans? Welcome to another edition of the Brushback with JP Ricciardi. I'm John Arezzi. We got another great show lined up for you this week, so let's bring on the 43-year baseball lifer himself, JP. How you doing, JP?
I'm doing well, John. How about you?
I'm wearing glasses.
That's a good thing. Means you
Had
can see.
had some cataract surgery, and I could see like the bird on the roof across in the next building, but I can't read anymore. But hey, listen, that's what happens when you get older, right?
Listen, better than coming to work with a black lab.
Exactly. And we can't all be like you. Look at you. You're like you're not
Yeah,
too far removed from my age, but you're looking good. You're out there walking, you're working out. You
yeah.
gotta,
Trying to
and
stay
now
one step ahead of the Grim Reaper, John.
you have to. But we got some Grim Reaper things going on in the game today, but we'll get into that on the hot takes in just a minute. But you have lined up and you've done it again. You outdid yourself again with another great guest that we'll be bringing on shortly for the batter up, an elite manager, Buck Showalter.
Yeah, I have a lot of admiration for Buck. He's a lifer. I can relate to a lot of things in his career because he started from the bottom up. And I think the fact that he started from the bottom up, he's well versed in the game and the nuances of the game, but he's a caretaker of our game and he cares a lot about the game. And I think it's going to be very interesting to get him talking. I really wish we had 2 hours with Buck because I know once we start talking away, we're going to start going down a lot of different roads. But a highly intelligent baseball guy with a great understanding of the pulse of the game and obviously one of the great managers in the history of the game. So really looking forward to getting Buck's take on a lot of things. And I'm excited to talk to Buck.
Yeah, I highly respect him, and what a great career he's had. And I can't wait for you to get into it with Buck in just a little bit. But let's get into the hot takes. This past weekend in Los Angeles, out on the West Coast, two of the three juggernauts in the National League faced off. The Atlanta Braves on the West Coast facing the Dodgers, and led by Shohei Ohtani, who was named Player of the Week for the 8th time of his career. They swept the Braves and they opened up a 5.5 game lead now over the second place Padres in the NL West. JP, the Dodgers are producing as advertised.
Yeah, I think the series with the Braves, I wouldn't make too much out of it outside of the fact that, that they are two of the better teams in the National League. I think they're going to end up playing for the National League championship. I think, round one goes to the Dodgers because of obviously they swept the Braves. But you're starting to see a little bit of movement in both leagues. The Dodgers are starting to distance themselves a little bit. The Braves and the Phillies are starting to distance themselves. I think, obviously the Braves and the Dodgers will be the class of the National League. And in round one, it goes to the Dodgers, led by the guy they gave a lot of money to, and he's backing it all up. So Ohtani stepped up, but great series for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it certainly was. And Otani, just a couple of those home runs he hit, they were just moonshots, and he gets better and better. It sounded like a rocket going off the bat. It was incredible. The home run he hit over the right center field fence went a long way. But let's get to the Philadelphia Phillies. And the Phillies have won 9 of their last 10 now, JP. They now lead Atlanta by 3 games in the National League East. Give us your hot take on both of those NL rivals. It's going to be a battle all season long, I feel, between them.
I think, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Braves are 3 of the better teams in baseball. The Phillies have a really good club. Their lineup is deep from 1 through 9. I think they're clicking on all cylinders. Trey Turner isn't even playing right now, but once he comes back, it's just going to make the lineup even more potent. Zach Wheeler has taken that step. He's a Cy Young candidate. He's stepped into the class of that legit number one starter. When he throws his hat on the mound every 5th day, he's got a chance to beat you. And every team that is successful, not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs, has to have that guy that they can hang their hat on. And the great thing about a guy like Zach now settling into that role is if you do have a little bit of a losing streak, his spot in the rotation is coming up. You got a chance to end a losing streak. We experienced that with Roy Halladay. Every fifth day, we knew we had a chance to win. So I think Zach has really matured from the time we had him with the Mets. I think he's evolved into that legit number one starter. He's put that rotation on his shoulders, and they're all kind of riding off him. But you know, who has taken to a city like Philadelphia better than Bryce Harper? He's embraced the culture. He's embraced the fans and what they stand for in Philadelphia. It's not an easy place to play in, but man, he's really adapted to Philadelphia, and the fans love him. I think that team is really reminds me of the Boa, Lazinski, Schmidt, Rose teams. They really epitomize Philadelphia, and I think Philly, the Dodgers, and the Braves are going to be battling out to see who comes out of that the National League. So Philly's off to a hot start. They just took four from the Giants, and they're playing really, really well.
And you got that 10th man on the field in Philadelphia, those fans. I'm sure you've seen the Philadelphia fans many, many times. They're kind of unique in baseball. They're the craziest fans, I think, in all of baseball.
Well, they're let's say they're passionate.
Yeah.
Uh, I think when you get on that Eastern corridor, the Red Sox, Mets, Yankees, Philadelphia, there's a different fan base in the Northeast, and I think that's why it's the Phillies have done a really good job bringing the right people in there that can play in Philadelphia. Schwarb has adapted to it. Turner's adapted to it. Like we said earlier, Bryce Harper's adapted to it. So it's not an easy place to play. It's not for the weak of heart. And I think they've identified the right guys. And I think that their core of that club is really built to play in Philadelphia. And I think the fan base has a great relationship. You could see the energy when you're in Philadelphia watching a game. That fan base takes it up another level.
They do. I've been there many times myself, and I've always saying they are passionate. They are passionate, and they get a little wild, but they love their team, and their team has rewarded them with these big personalities that deliver year after year. The Phillies are rolled into Toronto, and there you go on the other side of the coin now, and in an interleague game. But it could have really not happened at a worse time for the Blue Jays, who are now dead last in the American League East. Alek Manoah made his return to the major leagues this past Sunday, and he started off okay, and then he hit a rough spot. He wound up going 4 innings in the game, gave up 7 runs. On 6 of them were earned. He walked 4. He struck out 6. He allowed 2 home runs. But Manoah coming in was everyone was waiting for his return. He's come in, but he had some stumbling blocks ahead of him. And Schneider said to the press that his stuff was as good as he's seen in a while. It's just about being efficient with that stuff going forward and trying to get deeper into the game. What's your take on
Well,
all
I,
this?
I think a couple of things. I think it's a little bit of a panic move on the Blue Jays' part. I don't think he was actually dominating the minor leagues. I don't think his stuff was as crisp as possibly you would want to see a guy getting ready to come to the big leagues. And I think the Blue Jays are just scuffling right now to get any positivity in any way, shape, and form, catching lightning in the bottle. I think they brought him to the big leagues, hoping that he would just take off and do well. And he gave him 3 good innings. But the big leagues is not a testing ground. It's a place where you should be able to have someone up there who's capable of doing the things that he needs to do to help your team win. And listen, no one's a bigger Manoah fan than myself. I scouted him at West Virginia. I loved him. I wanted to take him in the draft when I was at the Giants, and we screwed up and we didn't take him. So I'm a big fan of him, but I'm also realistic. When a guy is scuffling and the guy doesn't have everything yet, and that is command, control, stamina. I don't think you can bring a guy to the big league. So I think they rushed him trying to catch lightning in the bottle, and it backfired. But that club is scuffling right now, and I think they're looking for any sign of a positive note. And I think they tried it with Manoah, and it didn't work.
Do you think that there was just a lot of pressure on the GM side, on Ross's side, to bring him back?
Well, I think there's pressure on everybody at this point now. I think the club has not gotten off to the start that they wanted to. Vlad is scuffling, which I'm really surprised. So I think they're just trying to get anybody that can give them a spark right now. Uh, the division is shaping up where you've got the Orioles are already 10 to 12 games over 500. They're showing that they're really going to be pretty special. So I think they can't let that division get away with them, and they're just trying to grasp at any straw that they can.
Yeah, you see the Jays, as I said, dead last, but the Orioles, the Yankees, the Red Sox. It seems to be shaping up to be the way that division has been for most of the past. I don't know, 20 years,
Oh yeah,
20
it's listen, it's a
25
tough
years.
division, John. It's a tough division, and you can't lose ground early because it's like running the Belmont. The Belmont's the longest race in the Triple Crown, and the horses that can go the first mile are great, but in the big leagues, it's the mile and a half, it's the mile and a quarter. It's a bigger race, and you cannot get too far behind because you're not going to make that ground up because you've got to overcome so many teams. They end up picking each other off. The Red Sox are better than people thought. I still think they're a 500 team, but they're gonna get in your way. Tampa Bay's a little better than I think they're playing, and you're gonna hit some stumbling blocks playing them. So you can't really get yourself too deep in that division because you're never gonna get out of it.
Yeah, and you're looking up at in the wild card, even though it's early, you have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. You got nine teams ahead of you for the wild card. If you're Toronto, you're 4.5 games back in that race. So
Well,
yeah, things got to
yeah,
change quick.
I think what's happened is the wild card has made it good and yet bad because I think some teams sit there and say, well, if we can win 83 games, we got a pretty good chance of getting in, like Arizona did last year. So we're really not going to push the envelope to go out and get better players. We're going to kind of hang tight and see if we can get in. But my understanding is, just getting in with all the teams that they allow in now, it's almost getting like hockey. You got in, big deal. Don't you want to win? So I think the teams that really go out, like the Phillies, the Braves, the Dodgers, those teams, the Yankees, or a team like the Orioles that have so much good young talent, they're building themselves to go long in the playoffs. So just to get in now, what does that mean? You got in, big deal.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue to follow all of this, and JP, another great segment here with your hot takes. But now it's time for Batter Up with JP. With 1,727 wins as a big league skipper, JP's guest on Batter Up is a three-time American League Manager of the Year and won the National League Manager of the Year in 2022 with the Mets, making him the only man in MLB history to win that award with four different teams in four different decades. He's managed both New York franchises, the Mets and the Yankees, as well as the Arizona Diamondbacks and Texas Rangers. We'd like to welcome to Batter Up with JP, Buck Showalter. Buck, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys today? We got the computers working, and I know I made everybody shake their head when you saw AOL.
No, we had Johnny Franco yet last week, and he had AOL too.
Hey, if it works, don't fix it, right?
First of all, I'm so excited to have Buck on. People, I retired in January, and people say to me, "Do you miss anything about baseball?" And this is what I miss about baseball: talking to baseball guys. It's lost in our game today, and the ability to talk to someone where you learn something about the game, where you can bounce questions off of, and we all have this comfort level in baseball. When you talk to really good baseball people, they challenge you, and it's great. And the thing I love about Buck is he's not only a lifer like myself, but he started from the grassroots, from the minor leagues all the way up, and he's seen every possible angle. And I was telling my wife last night, I can't wait to talk to Buck. I know it's only going to be a limited amount of time, but man, I just learned something every time I talk to him. So, Buck, thanks for doing this, and welcome to the show.
JP, I think we both share that we love to surround ourselves. I call them pushback guys. Guys that don't want just won't agree with you just because you may be the general manager or the manager. And I guarantee back then, some of the meetings we would have going over amateur drafts or player evaluation within the system, people from the outside would think we were getting ready to kill each other, you know, because people are very passionate about their opinion, and then they go have a beer or a dinner together, and they go, "Wait a minute, you guys are okay with each other." But you came up with that. I know you did with at St. Leo's and all those small colleges in Florida. They got those passionate kids from the Northeast that hadn't played a lot of games. And I used to always, I'm a big bio guy. When I see a bio with one of those small colleges in Florida, I still have a prejudice against the way those guys used to spit players out. And it was, that group of guys were very passionate, but they were pushback guys, that whole group of scouts that you grew up with.
Well, I want to get started here because there's so many things I want to talk to you about. But the first thing I want to ask you is what I ask everybody because I know for me what it meant. When did you fall in love with baseball?
Oh, geez, JP. I probably, when I was 6, 7, we had what we called a dungaree league. Remember when jeans used to be called dungarees?
Yeah.
Where you didn't get them hemmed, you just rolled them up until they shrunk enough where they were the right length. And we built our own field across this little creek bed up on the hill. We made a backstop, and there's only 6 of us on each team, so that's how I learned to hit the ball the other way because they couldn't play anybody in left field. And if I hit it too far to right field and it got in the creek, you were automatically out. We only had one ball. That's why I still got this scar underneath my eye. I had to go underneath the house to get the ball, and the dog bit me. Long story. But I think probably there, just the purity of it, just playing the game and learning how to argue. Okay. You didn't have umpires. Whoever argued the best won. Um, if you were not good enough to play, you got picked last. It wasn't little Johnny's turn. You know, they would say, "Hey, play better, play better."
Right.
That's why, when I went to with the Mets, JP, we had all these signs all over the place, in the weight room, and all these Vince Lombardi quotes and all this. And I got it. Okay, that's great. But I've never read a quote that made me a better player that day. Okay, so we just put one up there: play better. Just play.
Ah,
People in New York, especially, they don't want to hear all the excuses and everything that goes into it. Just play better. Shut up
right.
and play better. Manage better. Coach better.
What our listeners may or may not know is Buck was a very good college player and a very good minor league player. He played at Chipola Junior College, which has produced so many great players. Great program. Went on to Mississippi State, played in the Cape League, had good years in the minor leagues, and really cut your teeth in a Yankee organization that people don't realize today how good and how many good people from Stick Michael to Bill Livesey to Jack Gillis to Brian Sabian to just I could just go on to Jack Butterfield to so many people that touched so many lives. And once you were done playing, I know you went into coaching. We were in the Yankee organization at different points, coaching at the same time. But when did you realize or decide that hey, I think I want to manage?
JP, I never went into it. I have a little problem with people that are always working on their next job, and they don't care who they trip over. What's my title? We're so title oriented today. It's just, I got through, when I got through playing in AAA with the Yankees, I had an opportunity to continue to play for them in AAA or wherever. I could go to another team as a free agent and start with them in AAA, or I could be a hitting coach in Florida State League. And I just got married, so I took it and ran with it. I've also been able to look at myself realistically. I didn't hit the ball in the seats enough, and I wasn't a second baseman because I was left, and it just didn't fit. And I knew what they were looking for. And back then the joke used to be the only team that could beat the Yankees was their AAA team.
Right.
You repeated level.
Yeah.
I hit 320 one year in Double A and repeated the level next year. It's just the way it was. And but I just took that job and grinded the heck out of it and see where it took me. Bobby Hoffman, farm director, called me in a phone booth in the instructional league when I was down there and said, "Hey, we think you might be able to manage in Coney Island. You're at Penn League. What do you think about that?" My first thought was Jack Gillis was supposed to manage there, and I was really worried about Jack's thoughts and feelings. And Jack ended up being a third base coach and a close confidant. But I didn't. I just took it and ran with it. I tell you, how you find out whether you love managing, JP? Be the manager in extended spring
I've done it.
for 2 years and see.
Only one year. That was enough.
and I'm driving vans. I'm warming up the soup. I've got kids 17 to 20. None of them hardly speak English, and you find out in a hurry whether you love it and whether or not your marriage is going to work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great point. Extended spring is a true testing ground. I mean, you do. I got a great story, extended spring, and I won't bore. I'll make it real quick. I'm hitting fungos. Infield's over. I hit a pop up to the catcher. There's an old guy behind home plate. He's got a mangled left arm. He's sitting there. It's 107 out in Arizona. He's there the next day. So I hit another pop up to the catcher. I turn around. I said, I got to go talk to this guy. I said, you got a grandson out here? It's 107. What the hell are you doing out here? He goes, I love baseball. I go, really? I said, you play? He goes, yeah, I played a little baseball. I said, yeah, where'd you play? He goes, I played for the New York Giants. I said, what? He goes, yeah. I said, what's your name? He goes, Carl Hubble. I go, the meal ticket? He goes, yeah. I said, Buddy Kerr? I said, Buddy Kerr was an instructor. And I'm sitting there going, Carl Hubble in the middle of Arizona. And that's my extended spring.
that was a screwball pitcher, right?
Yeah. Struck out 5 guys in a row in the All-Star game.
I had the same thing watching Hoyt Wilhelm sit behind the plate in a straw rocking chair, watching the games down in the instructional league. But I loved it though. That's where I first saw Mariano Rivera and Bernie Williams. Bernie Williams was going to go home because he was mad at me because I was making it. We were making him switch hit, and his dad had given me his phone number. He said, "Now Bernie's going to want to quit about 2 or 3 weeks here and go home." He said, "When he does, just call me." And so I told Bernie. He said, "I don't want to switch hit anymore." Da 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 da. He said, "I'm just going to go home." I said, "Okay, your dad said you'd quit. Let me call him." He goes, "Oh, no, don't call my dad. Don't call my dad." I said, "Stick it out for another week. One day you'll thank me for that breaking ball coming towards you." Years later, in the Caribbean World Series, he calls me down. I'm scouting for the expansion draft with Arizona, and he says, "Hey, I just want to thank you for making me switch hit." And turned around and got back on deck. I went, "Really? Took you like 8 years?"
Well, you're jumping ahead on me, but I am going to get to that. You I got to see you manage a lot in the minor leagues because I was covering the Yankees at the time, and that Albany team was loaded. But you had all these guys from a very, very young age: Posada, Jeter, Pettit. I know I'm missing names, but the whole core of that great Yankee team you had:
Leyritz,
Jimmy Leyritz.
a guy named Deion Sanders passed through there.
As a pretty good player.
You know,
How
we had JP, we had guys that stayed there all year though. It was about finishing off a level where players don't look back and aren't sure if they mastered a level behind them. Nowadays, with the number of innings, Dom Cheaty's director of pitching told me they didn't have a single guy in the Angel system last year that had 100 innings. Think about that. And they wonder why they struggle in the big leagues and get hurt in the big leagues. That's another can of worms. But just that whole, Albany. I love when people go, "Boy, I bet you never saw that before." I said, "Oh, you never been in instructional league. You never been in winter ball. You never been in Columbia. You never been in Dominican. You see it all."
you had good teams, you ran good teams, your teams played hard. I used to like to get there and watch how guys ran their pregame. And I remember seeing Jeter when he was in low A, I believe it was.
Greensboro.
He was in Greensboro, and the manager's name eludes me.
Schaefer. Was it Schaefer?
And it wasn't Schaefer. It'll come to me. He ended up being a big league manager, big league coach, and Trey Hillman.
Trey Hillman, yeah.
Trey Hillman had him, and man, those guys would be out there and they would be going through their stuff. And you really want to know about guys if they can manage, if they can run a team. You watch how they run their pregame, and you watch what their guys go through,
and how the players respond to him.
100%.
Was that the year that Jeter had 50 or 60 errors?
Yes, and but I'll tell you what, he was out there every day, and Trey was working with him. And it's so funny, when Grady Fuson took over Texas, he said, "I need a farm director." I said, "You should hire Trey Hillman." He didn't even know who he was, and ended up, long story short, but just by paying attention, you watch guys, and that's how you ended up recommending guys. But anyway, you're a young guy. You get the managing job with the Yankees. You're probably managing guys you played with.
Yeah.
And you do an amazing job. What was first managing job? New York. You're not in Kansas City. You're in New York. What were your big challenges?
I spent 19 years with the Yankees, and I signed a 1-year contract to manage that team. I'll never forget the press conference. They asked me about the lack of confidence 1 year deal, and I said, "Well, they gave me a contract to manage the Yankees. What kind of? That's a lot of confidence. I'm on a 1 year plan. It's the way you deal with it, especially with the Yankees. But being a minor league manager for them helped me, JP, because we knew the job description. The fans didn't want to hear you complain about Mr. Steinbrenner's involvement, or did it surprise you? And when we left camp every year as a minor league manager, we had two goals. They told us, whether it was Jack Butterfield, Bobby Hoffman, whoever the farm director might be, win your league and develop players. And they felt like it was one and the same. You need to teach and coach winning baseball. Every day we would sit in front of the dugout before the practice started the next day, and we would go over the game mistakes, inning by inning, and the positive things. We talked about why we won, why they lost, why they won, why they may have lost, whatever, and just the little things in the second inning, the first inning, the third inning that went into the total picture of a game. So learning how to win games, and when players start critiquing themselves and other teams and things they did poorly, wow, Buck, did you see how out of line they were in that cutoff relay? Did you see the pitcher didn't back up? When they start critiquing the fundamental parts of the game, JP, it's hard for me to watch the rundown in the big leagues anymore. It's just
Oh,
they've quit. They want. It's like my dad wanted to be my father, not my pal. Nowadays, coaches want to be their pal, not their coach. But they come back to you. But no, I enjoyed teaching the game the way it was taught to me. It was by Johnny Oates and Stump Merrill and Ed Napoleon. These guys held me to a high standard. There was a sense of detail and purpose being in that organization. So yeah, when I got to the big leagues with the Yankees, I knew the job description. You better put your nose down and get after it. And I knew we had some good players coming, and so did Gene Michael.
you just stole my thunder. I was going to ask you who were some of your influences, but you said the Yankees had Stick Michael. Was there a better baseball guy than Stick Michael? I used to love sitting aside of him. I used to love when you show up at the park. Stick was at the game. I said, I'm going to learn something this week. This is
Oh,
going to be great.
we used to call him the Nutty Professor. When
Yeah,
the hair's all over the place, but
yeah,
if you listen to his bits of gold, watching him work in a trade in the winter meetings, back when the winter meetings were actually the winter meetings, watching him acquire players and kind of manipulate other general managers, I learned to keep my mouth shut in the room, and he would let me know when I was needed to interject something. That's how we got rid of Steve Sachs. Some of the deals he made, Paul O'Neill for Roberto Kelly, I could give you some background in some of those trades and the way he went about it, the way he kept Bernie Williams from being traded by Steinbrenner. But he was special. And, JP, he didn't initially, but he got me.
yeah,
He came in, one of the big moments of my career. We were about a week into spring training, and he thought we should have more veteran manager, and he didn't agree with, and I knew that. But I just put my nose down. He came in about a week after spring training. He was there every morning. He just came by my door about 8 o'clock and goes, "Hey, you won't see me as much anymore. You got this. I think you can do this. Okay, go get him." Boom. And he
yeah.
walked out the door. And I was like, did he just say, "Okay, I get it. Yeah, I think you can do this"? He did. And that was
Yeah.
his way of telling man, a
Well,
few.
yeah, those guys weren't big on praise, but all it took was a nod, or you knew you were accepted once they kind of just gave you that little nod. But it took a lot to get their respect. You had to prove yourself with those
Okay.
guys, which today half these guys would quit.
Oh, can you imagine some of these guys in a
Oh,
meeting with Bill Livesey or Steinbrenner?
oh,
Some of those guys, they would test, but it was part of it. But they wanted you to be good. They
right.
wanted to be part of something good, and they held everybody to a high standard. If you had thin skin, it didn't work.
No, that wasn't the place to be. They had a World War II mentality. Those guys, they
Mhm.
weren't going to hug you, and they weren't going to tell you they loved you, but they were just going to say yes or no.
And you wanted them in a foxhole. You
A
wanted them in
hundred
a foxhole.
percent, 100%. What better baseball guy than Jack Gillis? I tell people I played for Jack for 3 years in college, but I actually served for him under him for 3 years. Um,
Oh,
so
he was my third base coach in Oneonta. Boy, was he a good baseball man. And
excellent. I learned so much from Jack. He was just ahead of his time for us.
good.
You got Jeter, you got Posada, you got Pettit, you got Bernie Williams, you got all these great players. When you saw them as young players, did you think they were going to be great players?
JP, nobody's that good.
Right.
But the thing, all these people say, "Oh, he's going to be exactly this." Wait a minute, just hold on. But I do know that they had a lot of the attributes other than skills that you look for. There was a toughness about them. Mario Rivera was our best center fielder. We used to play games in extended spring and instructional league on Sundays. We would play a pitcher game and let them play the field and get 2 or 3 at bats. Rivera was our best player. And that's how we ended up with a guy named Oscar Zokar playing the outfield. They wanted to release him as a pitcher. I said, hey, this guy's our best hitter in our pitcher game. You might want to run him out there for a little bit. He ended up playing the big leagues. But,
Yeah.
I just, knowing I knew we were going to be able to create the environment for them to develop, and we were going to have people like Mattingly and Mike Stanley and some people around them that would show them the way and not bully them. Donnie wanted to make their path easier, so to speak, instead of harder. I never believed in hazing young players. I just don't get it, and it's really a sore point for me. And we didn't allow that stuff. And Bernie. And they came at different levels, but they came on little by little. Posada was a second baseman in the minor leagues initially. I mean, Jeter made 40, 50 errors, and everybody was doubting him. I could go on and on. Pettit weighed about 260 at one time. He had a weight issue. And I remember talking to him in instructional league about it. There's a lot of paths along the way. I'll tell you this, JP, one thing the Yankees did great, and you guys were responsible for it. You really want to see what a draft is about. Look at about 4 through 10. Okay, don't 1 through 3. I'm not saying it's easy, but those guys kind of jump out at you. You're not going to sneak up on anybody. You want to see what kind of scouting department. See what you're drafting 3 through 10. And Bill Izzy and Brian Sabian, your group, they killed it 3 through 10. The Joe LaFays, the Steve Balbonis, the Tom
The
Laritz, all
Gerald Williams. I mean,
Yeah.
it just the Turner kid. He's the hitting coach. Jack Gillis signed him out of.
Let me tell you what. Who was the guy?
Turner Ward. I'm thinking.
Oh,
of.
Turner. Yeah, heck, Turner played for
Ward.
University of South Alabama.
Yeah.
Real shit kicker, but really solid. Played the game hard, and I had him in Double A and Single A. And they're
and the thing about the Yankees was, like you said, the stars were the stars, but they did such a good job drafting from rounds 4 to 15. And you'd always say, that guy's going to play in the big leagues. He might not play for the Yankees, but he's going to play in the big leagues for somebody.
Yeah.
And they always had deep, deep teams. I think it's a lost art today. I don't know how you feel, but when organizations don't teach their kids how to win or strive to win in the minor leagues.
Yeah. It's part of development. That's why why do we have a scoreboard? I tell people all the time during the season, I go, the scoreboard dictates how you play the game. Look at the scoreboard. If it's a 1-run game, there's certain things that you try to play the game according to the scoreboard, because the one that has the most runs at the end of 9 innings, you get a W next to your name, and that's why we all get up in the morning. But I don't know. It's I'm not going to be the angry old man on the front porch screaming at the kids. I can tell you that.
But we still have a room to vent once in a while. So you have a great run in New York, and ultimately you move over to Arizona. And this, to me, not many people in the game get to do what you were able to do. You get the keys to an organization, and you get to form it from the ground level up. I can't imagine how exciting that is, but I'm also thinking at that point, like, what's important to Buck Showalter to build the organization? What did you want that organization to stand for? And what was your mentality about building an organization?
JP, where do you start? That's why I've had such an affinity for scouts, because I ran the expansion draft, hired the expansion. Eddie Durkin, Ron Hassey. We had some Sandy Johnson. That group we had there, boy, they were something. Teddy Eulander. And then hiring the minor league system. Just wanted people that it was about the Diamondbacks, and they weren't working on their next job. Everybody was pulling together. All the lessons I'd learned from the Yankees. I didn't want to leave the Yankees, but Mr. Steinbrenner wanted to fire 4 of my coaches. It was simple as that. I would have stayed, but no, there was a lot of people depending on us, and that expansion draft. I learned a lesson. Talking to Colorado and the Marlins, the biggest lesson I learned is they said, do not try to put together a championship club through the expansion draft. Those players are available for a reason. Very few teams can't protect them all. They've had 2 years to get their expansion list. So what we did is we spent a lot of time finding out who other clubs coveted and drafting those players and turning them over. If you'll look, we turned over like 28 of the 35 picks. And we went out and got different players. We got Louis Gonzalez. We got Tony Womack, I think. We got, we turned them over.
Right.
We kept Damian Miller. But, that whole process almost killed me. That was probably the most challenging time of my life. If someone told me to run expansion draft again, oh my God, it was 7 days a week. We met for 38 straight days before the expansion draft, from 8 till 6 every night, sometimes 10. But we got it right for the most part, and you realize that that was a challenge, but very rewarding. We had a lot of good people. We wanted people that were not only good baseball people, but were good human beings. That really they didn't have an agenda, or other than they wanted to be a part of something special. We had a who's who of staff, Dickie Scott, all those people in the minor leagues. We had a who's who.
Yeah, you had some really, really good people. And, you think about, you actually put your handprint on an organization, from you molded it from the start. Not many people get to do that. And that's got to be so exciting. And to look back, like you said, and you had really good players, you had really good teams, and you built the foundation for that world championship team. So that's a lot of credit for that goes to you. And obviously, we can't cover every one of your teams because we'd be here talking for 2 hours. But obviously, you go to Texas, you do a good job there. You go to Baltimore, you do an amazing job there. They haven't won, and all the while, I'm either scouting your teams in the minor leagues, or as a front office guy, watching your teams, competing against your teams. Then, as a general manager, playing against your team. So I'm watching your whole career play out, and everywhere you go, you touch a place and it gets better. That's got to be a good feeling to know every place you got to, you made it better.
Well, the key, JBs, wasn't me. It was, the people there. One of the mistakes people make when they go into a new situation is they think everything there is bad, and they want to get rid of everybody. There are a lot of people there that are very good if you put them in a different culture and different atmosphere and a different respect, so to speak. In Baltimore, we took what we had. I think one of the keys for a situation like Baltimore is I kept asking our guys, who are we? Who are we? We can't be the Yankees. We can't be the Red Sox. We can't even be Toronto. Okay, who are we? We knew we had a fixed budget, so we had to be able to out relationship, out scout, out all the things that money doesn't. I tell you, a big move was getting our owner to start spending the same money the Yankees and Red Sox were on 6-year free agents. They were killing us in the what if players. The what if players, we had to solve from within. And they were giving guys $15,000, $20,000 a month, and we were stuck at 10. Well, even though we could out opportunity the Yankees and the Red Sox for minor league players, we couldn't do it for $5,000 less a month. It just wasn't going to happen. So we got him to bump that up, and now we started being able to use our ability to offer them playing time. So we started getting the Nate McClouse and a lot of these 6-year free agents, Steve Pierce's, people that fit who we were. They had to defend, they had to play the game right, they had to be a good teammate, and they had to have one thing on the mind, that's beat your ass. And they got weeded out in a hurry. I remember when I got there, I think it was in early August, and I just sat in the dugout, basically watched the games and took notes. And they kept talking about this guy in AAA named Robert Andino. And I said, what about Andino? They said, well, he's talented, but. He's talented, but. He's talented, but. And the but off the field, different stuff. He was this, he was that. I said, listen, I'm looking at these guys on the field. The word talented ain't describing many of them. Let me try that guy in the big league. And we out relationship Robert, and Robert ended up being a good player for us. But people are so afraid of guys that don't fit a mold. But knowing who you are and staying true to it. Knowing that hey, that's a nice player over there the Yankees have, but he doesn't fit what we're doing. It's too much money. He doesn't do certain things that we're going to require. And we had the players like Adam Jones and Nick Markakis and J.J. Hardy and Wieters that fit into that mold. And we brought a Machado or somebody up. We knew they were going to put their arm around them and show them the right way to play the game.
Well, I know you're deflecting credit, but having been in leadership positions, it all starts with the leader. And I know the people that are underneath you share a lot of the responsibility because you allow that, but the tone has to be set. And the players have to know that they're going to be held accountable. The players have to know that you're going to be able to put your arm around them. When they don't hustle, they're going to know there's a look that comes their way that tells them that that's not going to happen again. So leadership to me is so I don't know if it's present in our game today. And I think you created that environment. And when you put your staffs together, what kind of staff did you want to put together to support you in that?
That's a great question, JP, because basically leadership is defining reality. Okay, thank God I had some people in my life, including my mom and dad, who defined reality. They wanted to be my father and my mom, not my pal, and it was some tough love. But um, I just wanted to make sure that everybody around us, you have to empower them as the manager and as the leader to be what you want them to be. If they're going to hold Manny to feet to the fire about something, if he's late or whatever, or Jonathan Scope or whoever, you had to support them. They can't be a sympathetic ear. That's one thing we try to do is eliminate the sympathetic ears, where guys would go, hey, man, he wants me to do this. Let me go talk. He doesn't want to hear it. Let me go talk to JP. Oh, JP doesn't want to hear it. Let me go talk to Bill. Bill doesn't want to hear it. And after a while, you eliminate those sympathetic ears to BS. And I think having coaches that, one, they got to know the game. They have to have a passion for it. They're not working on their next job, so to speak. And they're willing to define reality to the players and not always want to be popular with them, but do what's right for the organization, which is really what's best for that player in the long haul. Let them get to see the end game. Always be able to define the end game to these guys.
What do you think? And I'm jumping around a little bit here because I got so many things I want to throw at you. Um, what do you think the biggest challenge facing managers today are?
Whew. Uh, JP, we talk about all this, and it's still the same. You still got to do the same things to win a baseball game. You really do. And it's the more it changes, the more it stays the same. Um, it's a long question. I think we used to be part of. They don't really want the manager involved in the evaluation process of players. They want you basically to run the clubhouse and run the game, so to speak. And as far as what you think about the players' evaluations, and as far as lineups and ideas and thinking off the beaten path and throwing stuff. I'm that guy that always would ask a question that nobody else wanted to ask because they're afraid of looking stupid. I didn't have a problem with that. Like, we live in an abbreviation world. All these words are abbreviated, and I always stop and go, okay, what's that stand for? A lot of times I find out they don't know, and I'm usually asking the question that everybody else wants to ask. So I think there's the best organizations blend everything. We were using some form of analytics years ago, but we didn't have the computers and all the manpower to do all the things. Heck, my wife was doing patterns of where they hit the ball back in the New York Pin League. I bring this chart home and she'd chart it up for me with a humpback and a different pin for each pitcher. I mean, this isn't something new, okay?
Right.
And I look every year, JP, I would take our most grizzled baseball veteran and I would say, hey, you're going to present tomorrow analytics for dummies, sabermetrics, whatever. And I'd have him go sit up a couple of days with our guys upstairs, and they would come down with him. And I said, I want you to take the cloak off of this. I want you to tell them what these numbers tell us, where the 300 batting average is, where the 3 ERA is, and what's good, what's bad, what's poor in the numbers. Tell me what the letters stand for. Tell them all. And I also want you to tell them what these numbers don't tell you, what you have to bring to that. And the best organization I've seen bring that all together. You saw it with the Texas Rangers with Chris Young and Bochy. You watch
Yeah.
how these guys
Yeah.
have respect for what each one of them does. I'm not going to go tell the pilot how to land a plane. I'm not going to tell the heart surgeon how to stitch an aortic valve. But there's certain things about running a clubhouse, that only we know. You have to wear things as a manager to protect players a lot of times, and that's okay. If you look up a manager's description, one of them's going to be you wear it. You just wear it sometime because you got to be careful about telling truths that hurt innocent people. Those 26 players you have are the most important thing. Everything you do is about presenting them and putting them in a position to be successful.
The outside world, and writers included, they have very little idea of the pulse of a clubhouse. And it's a very fragile atmosphere that can go one way or the other
Just like that.
based on how people handle themselves in that area.
Hmm.
And today I see lack of respect for that sacred area and lack of respect for the manager's office.
We lost it. It's all right. We lost it. My football coaching brethren, friends through the years, they laugh at us. They meet what on Monday, and they
Right.
talk about, and they just, they don't have to talk about anything much on the IL. You keep in mind that managers meet twice a day, before and after the game, for 162 games, over 200 counting spring training. So that's at least 400 times you have a chance. One wrong thing out of your mouth can change your whole clubhouse, and it's a challenge. I'm not saying it's good or bad for the game. I'm just saying the clubhouse is basically an interview room now.
Yeah.
You try to take 5 minutes away from those people, they're not very happy. And I don't know, the people that just kind of lauder around there and aren't there for any purpose. I've never understood that.
It used to be such a sacred area, and now anybody goes in the clubhouse, and I just can't believe, I mean, these guys have no time to do what they want. And they have to be. It's hard to be on all the time. You have
JP,
to. Go ahead.
I was so protective of places where team could be a team. That's why I love spring training. It's why, back on field 7. That's why I love whether it be the plane or the bus. How many places can the team really drop their guard and interact with their teammates? That's why the players' lounge and the training room. These players, that's where they go, where they can be themselves. Otherwise, they're scrutinized, especially in New York. Every little action, people are looking into their locker. They're watching how you might. It's sad, but everybody wants to tell me how great it is for the game. But I sometimes wonder. Football and the NBA don't seem to be doing too bad the way they do it.
Look at the NHL. Upper body injury, lower body injury. That's all they get.
Yeah.
We give them so much access, and it's never enough because it becomes they just keep going and going and going. You're like, I just told you, he's got a sore elbow. How much more do you want me to tell you? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. We don't have the results yet. But listen, I don't want to keep you all day. I could keep you
Oh,
all
I
day
do. I do.
about this.
Hey, JP, I'm not that busy.
Well, it's not a matter of you being busy. We have a time limit on this,
Uh,
and I know deep down you like to teach the game. I know you like to talk about the game. I know you like to watch the little intricacies of the game. The infielder was one step over. He could have been over here. I mean, it must drive you nuts when you see guys looking at an armband saying where to play in the big leagues. You got to be kidding me. But what what do you like about the game? There's got to be something you like about the game.
I like the when somebody does things. That's what I was jealous about minor leaguers, so they could get an instant return from working on a guy that night. And sometimes baseball, is 2 steps forward, 1 step back because there's so much scrutiny of a day-to-day success. I think I enjoy watching players improve. The mentality come through. Um, they're skilled. They're very skilled. The repetitions of the game require a lot of discipline, whether it be sleeping, whether it be workout, whether it be eating. They have so many things at their disposal. I'm really alarmed about the injuries, though, JP. I did want to ask you what your thoughts were. I don't think anything is ever just one thing. Pitching this is exactly it, and if we get rid of this or don't do this, everything's going to change. It's a conglomeration of things and some. But I do want to ask you why do you think there's so many pitching injuries going on?
I'll give you a quick story. My last year with the Giants, we're having meetings in January. It's the end of January. We show up. Guys are in the bullpen throwing bullpens. Not only are they throwing bullpens, they're throwing flat out, full ass bullpens. Now all the scouts are there, and so these guys are, they're puffing their chest up a little bit more. And today you can't like move your arm without someone uh, monitoring it. 94, 95, 96. So I turned to someone. I said, "Let me get this straight. It's the end of January. These guys are throwing full out bullpens in January. They're going to go February, March, April, May, June, July, August. The minor league season goes to September. These guys are going to throw 8 to 9 months like this, and we don't understand why they're getting hurt. I don't get it. I don't understand it. There's no rest period for these guys anymore. You know, guys used to go play basketball. The guys in the Northeast would go play hockey. They would do stuff like that, but these guys just throw and throw and throw.
JP, I'm a big bio guy. I look at a bio, I can get a really good idea. When I see a guy that plays baseball only year round, it's a big red flag for me. You know, let's face it, like a slide is a controlled fall. That's all it is. You learn how to
Right.
fall in football and basketball and hockey. You know, in baseball, usually when I see a guy in the big leagues that doesn't slide well, he was a travel ball guy. I asked a guy one time, I said, what position did you play when you didn't pitch in travel ball? He goes, oh, I didn't. I just pitched. I went, uh-oh. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the human body was made to have downtime. It just was. And, you know, the sport, I don't know. It just, remember when bullpens used to take 10 to 12 minutes? Now it's throw a pitch, go look at the iPad, throw a pitch, go. It's 45 minutes.
You got 3 guys behind you charting everything. You have to turn and get the instruction.
But I think it's what do you want to get out of a bullpen session?
Right.
You know, what you want to do is be getting ready for your start in the game. In the game.
Right.
You know, that's why I love Max Scherzer so much. Max, when he would have a work day, he'd go out in full uni, exact same thing wearing that he's going to wear for a game. He doesn't let anybody out there. I mean, it's like game day. He goes
No,
out there and he's down there 12 minutes and he's done.
that's how Halliday was. Same way. I used to love to watch his bullpens because he went there, he had a in, out, gonna work on this, and lights out, I'm out of here. I got my work in. But we don't want starters anymore, Buck, because you know, they're just we just don't know what to do with these
JP,
starters.
it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It really isn't. You know, don't blame I tell you, don't blame the players. Okay, you know, we're creating this
100%.
this mentality and this thought process. First time somebody's in trouble, well, let's go get somebody else here and get him out of trouble. Learn how to get out of it. Boy, if I took a guy out in the 4th inning, we had bases loaded, nobody out years ago with the Yankees, I'd have got. Hey, how's he going to learn how to pitch out of that if you don't leave him out there? You know, I said one time, you know, this game was won in the 2nd inning when Quintana had bases loaded and nobody out and got out of giving up 1 run. That's how we won the game. They all,
Right.
well, that's not sexy. Hell no, that won the game there
Well, you limited the damage.
because he was learning how to do that in winter ball in Columbia.
The Giants yesterday brought a kid up, Mason Black. He starts the game. He's never gone beyond 4 innings as a starter in the minor leagues.
It's not his
So in
fault.
the,
It's not his
so in the
fault.
big leagues, they run him out for the 5th inning, and he gave it up in the 5th inning. It's not the kid's fault.
No.
Oh man, you got me going. Last question I'm going to leave you with because I've enjoyed this so much and I could do this forever. But what would young Buck Showalter as a manager tell older Buck Showalter as a manager?
Uh, you know, I never had it figured out, and I learned something every year, JP. I never was one. I knew how fleeting it could be. You treat people like you'd like to be treated. You grind it. I was lucky to be from a small little town, smallest public school in the state of Florida. So I didn't have a problem in New York because we had to treat everybody like we were going to see them every day. You know, I don't know. The first time I heard somebody blow their horn at somebody, I went, wow, that wouldn't go over too good. But I would tell him, you know, I don't think I take things nearly as seriously as people think I do. You know, during the game, it's all about what people want you to bring. But you know, you're not getting out of this alive, and you realize you're playing a sport with failure in it. And I'd probably tell him to keep your priorities in order. Make sure with your family. I'm like I've been married 41 years, and you know we've had some great times, but it's been a blessing and an honor to be in the game, and I've never forgotten that. And I can't believe how lucky I've been. It's been very good to me, and I want good things for our game. I really do, and I enjoy watching great players play. And you know, everybody was the greatest ever then. Now, I mean, they'll be judged down the road, but you know, do you leave the game better than you found it? You know, we had a code that you had to, you know, a code of the game. You wanted to make, you know, don't do that. You don't do that in professional baseball. There's a code that we live by to make sure we left the game as good, if not better. You know, we were supposed to live up to that responsibility, and I really hope we stay with that thought.
Well, Buck, I can't thank you enough for taking time. I know you say you got a lot of time, but I'm sure there's a lot of people tugging at you.
No,
Always good catching up with you. Always good talking baseball. hopefully we'll run into each other soon. And I hope someone out there is smart enough to give you another job.
Well, we'll see. There's a lot of good people out there, and I hope nobody ever gets fired. I hope they all keep their jobs and last forever. How's that?
I like that. I like that. Good luck to you. Enjoy your family. Thanks, Buck.
All right, good talking with you guys.
Take care.
See you, JP.
Bye.
Thank you. What a history Buck Showalter has had. I know you enjoyed talking to Buck, and wow, there was so much there. You wanted it to continue forever,
We
man.
could have kept going, John. I mean, Buck's
Uh,
just one of those guys. He loves the game. I mean, you get around a lot of these guys that have so much history with the game and just have so much passion for it. And stories lead to stories, lead to stories. And I really just enjoy talking to people like Buck. And he was great. He was absolutely great. It was so much fun.
it was. I think everyone's going to love it, and I'm sure that you're going to bring him back sometime during the season.
I'd love
So,
to. I mean, it just obviously depends on his schedule, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that was a home run. That was a great one.
He says you don't have too much to do right now, so it's good timing. But I'm sure he's going to land somewhere. That guy's not going to be idle for long,
I don't
for
think so.
sure.
I don't think so. He shouldn't be. Let's put it that way.
That's true. All right, JP, this is another great episode. That'll wrap it up for this week. And until next week, when we return with another Brushback, this is John Arezzi for JP Ricciardi. Have a great week, everybody.